Okay, run away. I'm gonna like tear up. Ah! It immediately wasn't good. How could you do this to me? Editing Michelet here, and I just wanted to say, wow, I'm not at all surprised that I lost the footage for the first part of this video. So I am here to give you a really quick recap, which is to say thank you so much, Cindy from Read with Cindy. I won her February Book of the Month giveaway, so I got all 5 books that were optioned that month, and this is my vlog of me reading and judging those books. I was so excited to find out that I won, and she included a personalized note, which was so sweet. I love her. I love her videos. It was definitely an experience all the way through, but I'm not going to say any more. I will just show you the footage. I pretty much never read hardcover anymore, probably because my TBR is so long that I don't normally buy new books. But yeah, I don't know what the last hardcover book was I read, actually. Anyway, it's got a little book of the month like engraved thing on it, which I didn't know was a thing, but then this next book has it, so they probably all have it, but that's cool. So, All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. It's a great, nice cover. The color looks real shit in this light, but it's a lot more purpley and blue than that. Also, if you if you hear any little like bang, it's not a lot of little tappy tap things. My dwarf hamster is in his ball, and he just like runs full speed into stuff, and then when he hits something, he changes direction. So all that's him hitting things. But All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace here's the synopsis. She will reign. As princess of the island kingdom Visidia, Amora Montero has spent her entire life training to be High Animancer, the master of souls. The rest of the realm can choose their magic, but for Amora it's never been a choice. To secure her place as heir to the throne, she must prove her mastery of the monarchy's dangerous soul magic. When her demonstration goes awry, Amora is forced to flee. She strikes a deal with Bastien, a mysterious pirate. He'll help her prove she's fit to rule if she'll help him reclaim his stolen magic. But sealing the kingdom holds more wonder and more peril than Amora anticipated. A destructive new magic is on the rise, and if Amora is to conquer it, she'll need to face legendary monsters, cross paths with vengeful mermaids, and deal with a stowaway she never expected. What I'm going to do is, before I read these, I'm going to put them in order of, like, how I think that I will rate them. Having only read this synopsis, I'm going to put it low. I have hope for it because it sounds like it's very character driven, which I really like. But I generally don't read... When I do read fantasy, I don't read royal fantasy / magic, usually. I don't think I've ever read a pirate book. So those things, like, initially turn me off, but I haven't read so much of them where I think I can say those are things I don't like in books, if that makes sense. They are just things that I don't generally stray towards. So I'm going to put this by itself on the bottom right now. The next book is Ink in the Blood. These books are thick, too. Celia Sand and her best friend, Anya Bertoni, are inklings for the esteemed religion of Profeta. Using magic, they tattoo followers with beautiful images that represent the divine's will and guide the actions of their recipients. It's considered a noble calling, but 10 years into their servitude, Celia and Anya know the truth. Profeta is built on lies. The tattooed orders strip away freedom, and the revered temple is actually a brutal, torturous prison. Their chance to escape arrives with the Rabble Mob, a traveling theater troupe. Using their inkling abilities for performance instead of propaganda, Celia and Anya are content for the first time, until they realize who's followed them. The divine they never believed existed is very real, very angry, and determined to use Celia, Anya, and the Rabble Mob's now infamous stage to spread her deceitful influence even farther. Yeah, no, that one sounds really good. I think maybe because the fantasy aspect of it isn't like... It's not what drives the story. Like the other one, for All the Stars and Teeth, it sounds like the magic. Like if there wasn't... I have to go save my hamster. Hold on. Sometimes he gets like stuck in these ruts that he can't get himself out of. Although he has learned how, if you're like, well, I don't think he knows this. I don't think he's that smart. But he has learned that if he like gets enough speed that he can make it over wires. But there are some things he just can't do. So, okay, back to Ink in the Blood. This is a story where the conflict could and does exist without fantasy, I think is what I really like. I love tattoos. So the idea of magic tattoos is super cool. I love the idea of religion / like kind of a cult. It sounds like a cult. Those things and just like how they work with like the human psychology and belief and emotion over logic and all that sort of stuff, like it really fascinates me. And then I love theater, so the fact that they're in a traveling theater troupe are all things I really like. So I'm super excited to read this one. So far we have Ink in the Blood and then All the Stars and Teeth. Next we have Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Naisha Saeed. This is the only one that I've heard anybody else talk about. I had heard about it before Books of the Month, probably because Becky Albertalli is so popular. I've never read a Becky Albertalli book, although I did get one for Christmas, but it wasn't Simon, so that's just where I'm at with that. But it's like not for a reason or anything really. So, but I'm excited about this. I don't know if this is a rom-com or a rom something else. But I'm hoping it's really good so I can give it to one of my friends who's very political and, you know, she'll like the Romney part and the political part. So, Jamie Goldberger's cool with volunteering for his local state senate candidate as long as he's behind the scenes. When it comes to speaking to strangers, or let's face it, speaking at all to almost anyone, Jamie's a choke artist. There's no way he'd ever knock on doors to ask people for their votes until he meets Maya. Maya Ramons, having the worst Ramadan ever. Ooh, that should tell me how to say her name, but I'm ignorant. Her best friend is too busy to hang out, her summer trip is canceled, and now her parents are separating. Why her mother thinks the solution to her problems is political canvassing with some awkward dude she hardly knows is beyond her. Going door to door isn't exactly glamorous, but maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. After all, the polls are getting closer, and so are Maya and Jamie. Mastering local activism is one thing. Navigating the cross-cultural crush of the century is another thing entirely. I pretty much never give rom-coms 5 stars just because they have to have like a sort of something else. So I'm not anticipating, although I'm also not anticipating Ink in the Blood, which I'm really excited for it to be a 5-star. I'm not anticipating this to be like super, super good, but I'm anticipating it to be one of those like in-between heavy book reads that's just really cute. Especially if like I'm imagining a lot of the scenes are them doing the canvassing, in which case it's like a lot of walking and knocking on doors where people don't answer, so that would give a lot of space for conversation, which again, like I love character-driven things. So, but I'm gonna put this under Ink in the Blood as far as like anticipated liking. So we have Ink in the Blood, Yes, No, Maybe So, and All the Stars and Teeth at the bottom. But again, the bottom doesn't like, I don't know why I said again, I haven't said it before, but the bottom doesn't really mean anything. It's just the bottom of this pile. So, okay, this looks beautiful. Wow. Again, these colors are not coming. I wonder if I turn it into the light. So The Sound of Stars, and the tagline is, can their love of books and pop music save the world? To which my answer is yes. I don't hear my hamster. Okay. I put him away. 2 years ago, a misunderstanding between leaders of Earth and the invading Allori resulted in the death of 1/3 of the world's population. 17-year-old Janelle Ellie Baker survives in an Allori-controlled center in New York City, with humans deemed dangerously volatile. True. Because of their initial reaction to the invasion, emotional expression can be grounds for execution. Music, art, and books are illegal, but Ellie breaks the rules by keeping a secret library. When a rule goes missing, Ellie is terrified that the Allori will track it back to her and kill her. Born in a lab, Morris was raised to be emotionless. When he finds Ellie's illegal library, he's duty-bound to deliver her for execution. The trouble is, he finds himself drawn to human music and in desperate need of more. They're both breaking the rules for the love of art, and Ellie inspires the same feelings in him that music does. Ellie's and humanity's fate rests in the hands of an alien she should fear. Morris has a lot of secrets, but also a potential solution, thousands of miles away. The two embark on a wild and dangerous road trip with a bag of books and their favorite albums, all the while creating a story and a song of their own that just might save them both. Okay, when I read this the first time, I don't think I read that last paragraph about a road trip. Not really psyched about that, but only in the context, I think, because generally I don't have an issue with road trips. I am interested. I'm for sure interested in this book. I'm hoping that it brings something new, or like maybe not new, but that the character, like again, the characters rule it, because these concepts are things that have been done, possibly more in film than in books. Specifically, it reminds me of Equilibrium, which I think is 90s or early 2000s with Christian Bale. Really worth a watch. Where they take pills to not feel, and his job specifically is somebody that goes out and finds like artifacts of books and art and stuff that people are hiding, and then he burns them. So there's that. And then it also reminds me of Equals. I don't remember what it's called. It's more recent. It's on Netflix. It's got Kristen Stewart and that one dude from Warm Bodies, and they're also not supposed to feel things, but they do. I like that concept a lot, so I'm hoping it doesn't just like fall into the cliches of it, and I'm interested in what this solution is. So I'm gonna put it third, under Ink in the Blood and Yes, No, Maybe So. I've forgotten what All the Stars and Teeth is about already. Oh yeah, The Princess. So that one's still last. And then I have one more, which I'm really excited for just by the title, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I like the cover a lot too. When you ask people what happened to Andy Bell, they'll tell you without hesitation she was murdered by... Oh. Yeah. Okay, so that was the back. I didn't even finish reading it. My B. Here's the synopsis. Everyone in Fairview knows the story. Pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend, Sal Singh. I don't really like that alliteration. Who then killed himself. Ooh. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. But she can't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. She knew Sal when she was a child, and he was always so kind to her. How could he possibly have been a killer? That's ignorant, but... Now a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project. At first just to cast doubt on the original investigation, but soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent. And the line between past and present begin to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. I don't really read this genre either, so I am interested in this. I'm hoping... I feel like I go very back and forth about investigative things. Am I more interested in this? Okay, I'm definitely putting it under Ink in the Blood. So this is our number one pick. I am also going to put it under Yes, No, Maybe So. So Yes, No, Maybe So is our number 2 pick. Road Trip with Alien. Okay, and then I'm going to put it under The Sound of Stars. So The Sound of Stars is my number 3 pick. And then I'm going to put A Girl's Guide to Murder and All the Stars and Teeth at number 5. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. Here they are in order of anticipation. Anticipation. I'm finally starting my first book. Hopefully that means that I'll read these in quick succession, because I don't know, why the fuck not? I just finished Red, White, and Royal Blue, so this feels applicable. Another political rom-com. So hopefully I like this one better, not that I didn't like that one, but it was okay. It was overhyped, kind of, and I had some issues with it, but whatever. I'm starting this tonight. Good morning. It's April 7th. And I finished Yes, No, Maybe So. I actually read like this much of it yesterday, which maybe doesn't seem like that much, but it's a lot because I actually finished another book earlier in the day. So I was really proud of myself. I'm giving this book 3 stars. It was enjoyable, but forgettable. Things to mention. I love the name Jamie, especially for a guy. I liked the use of technology in it. Instagram, texting. I think that was it. Usually I'm really anti-technology in books, even though I obviously totally understand it's a part of the contemporary world. Like, I use it myself. Obviously, I'm talking to a camera. It's about to go on the internet. But I don't really like it in books, but I definitely felt like this one, it added to it. I especially liked the texting between Jamie and Maya. I thought that was one of the parts where their chemistry was the most natural. Because one of my critiques of the book is actually that a lot of the dialogue felt really forced. Not like between the characters, but the writing of it felt really stiff and like designed. It felt designed to be that way rather than natural conversation. I liked that both of their heritages were used, with Jamie being Jewish and Maya being Muslim. And it wasn't just, like, it was actually an important part of the story. And I thought that was really cool and used really well. And it was a good factor for them to bond. Oh, there were 2 fight scenes. I won't tell you when or between who, but I thought both of those were done really well. They were maybe the best written parts. Fights, they always start off as something and they just become something else, like especially if both parties are angry, and that's what both of these fights did. And I thought the dialogue was really natural, and I thought it was natural that like it starts about one thing and then suddenly it's about this other issue you've been holding in and this other issue you've been holding in, and it just like blows up. So I thought that was really well done. I really connected with Jamie's insecurity about how he would just like overthink everything. Like, he read into everything that Maya or anybody else said. Like, oh, she said, you know, she liked me, but like she didn't mean she likes me, she means as a friend. And then we get the dual perspective of Maya, and she just meant exactly what she said. That was just really eye-opening for me because I've had experiences like that in my life where I totally thought this is what somebody meant, or I was like afraid that's what somebody meant, and they were like I literally didn't even think of that. So I thought that was really nice for me to read. Very small spoiler section. I thought the confessions of love were too much. It didn't have to be love for them to start dating. I didn't think that they had earned the I love yous yet. 2, I really loved Sophie's coming out. Very reminiscent of real coming out, so I liked that a lot. And then the last thing, Gabe was an asshole. And they sort of wrote this very, I don't even want to call it an arc, because literally one second he was being an asshole, and then this other second he was like, I'm under a lot of pressure. They tried to redeem it, and I just don't think he earned that redemption. I think he didn't understand why any of the stuff that he did was wrong, and it was totally wrong and insensitive, and the means don't justify the end, and that's the part that he didn't get. Who's calling me? Hello? So I'm dropping Yes, No, Maybe So off at my friend's house, and I'm like really nervous. I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble. She didn't answer my texts either, so oh shoot. But I told her I was gonna drop it off, but I didn't tell her it was today. But I gave her an hour's notice. Oh my god! I'm nervous. I wonder if she's gonna see me. I can't tell if she can see me or not. Okay, run away. I made it. I'm alive. I didn't die and I didn't get caught, which sounds so dumb. I was like really afraid I was gonna get caught. It's probably dark, but I've started A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I just wanted to say that we've got a protagonist description because she's looking in her reflection on page 4. So we're off to a good start. This probably looks exactly the same as yesterday, but I promise it's a new day. I read this much, 235 pages. I'm liking it, and I'm not finding that I know what's going to happen. Like, I have a couple of guesses, but anyway, hopefully I'm not jinxing it by saying this, but I think I'll finish it tomorrow. I have less than 100 pages left, and I am frustrated. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. Right, so she's getting, that says that in the synopsis. It's not a spoiler or anything, and she's getting these threats. Well, everybody has a breaking point, right? Like, if you threaten the right thing, somebody will finally listen. And I'm frustrated because her breaking point is really annoying. Like, all of the other things that were threatened and at stake, and like people's lives that are involved in this case and all that kind of stuff, all of that, and she still keeps going, and then this thing gets threatened, and that's her breaking point? Really? Overall, really enjoying the book, but I'm pretty sure this is my 4th anticipated book, and right now it's about to go in the first slot above Yes, No, Maybe So. 3.5 out of 5 stars, which maybe doesn't sound that good. I don't know if I've adequately really explained. I think I have explained what jumps something from 3.5 to a 4. So 3.5 is really good. Like, it was an enjoyable read. Like I think I said before, especially for somebody who doesn't read murder mysteries, and I think part of the reason for that is that I'm not a huge fan of formulaic books. I didn't like the ending as much as I liked the rest of the book, but I didn't have any problems with it, except that the person that did it also did some other horrible things that we weren't aware of until the very end, and I think that we and the protagonist were too sympathetic towards them. I did, on the other hand, really like the message that nobody in the story was fully good or fully bad. Even any of the people along the way that we found out committed crimes, whether they were related to the murder or not, nobody was fully good, nobody was fully evil, and I think that's totally realistic to humanity. I liked that there were no extraneous details. Everything that came into the book I knew was going to be relevant to the investigation at some point, so that was cool. But then on the other hand, even though there weren't extraneous scenes and details, I thought there were extraneous characters. The last thing that I have to say is, after that little blippity of anger I had about being frustrated at what her breaking point was, I decided, after reading on, that that wasn't really fair of me. I more understood her breaking point. And more than that, just fear. She's been getting threatened. Literally threatened. And now that threat seems very real. And so she's afraid for her life. And so suddenly all these reasons that she was investigating, like, don't seem as big of a deal as her life and others' lives and people she cares about and all that kind of stuff. So it made sense to me. I was just heated in the moment. I am going to drop this book now. Okay, I'm on page 9. First impressions are: 1, because of the language, this is going to not be as quick a read as the other two. I think it's more formal, so it takes more brain power to understand. That sounds more complicated than it is. It's just, it's a style I'm going to have to get used to. Two, all the places and people and races and customs and everything are made up. So I have to get used to those. And lastly, we have another physical description of her comparing herself to her cousin. So we're 2 for 2 on cliche physical descriptions. So I've got my first real update on All the Stars and Teeth. I'm about to start chapter 8, about page 75. And it's just starting to get, like, exciting. But I think the reason for that is everything that happens before is in the synopsis. So I kind of got impatient waiting for it to happen because I already knew what was going to happen. So I had to wait for that all to play out, and now they're finally going on their journey, so I no longer know what's going to happen, and I'm somewhat accustomed to all the fantasy words. There's also a love triangle, so that could be good. I generally like love triangles, although it's looking like one of the options is not really substantial, like it's going to be pretty obvious who ends up together, and I prefer love triangles where, like, all of the options of pairings are, like, legit. I'm not really a fan of the title, All the Stars and Teeth, and I'm not really a fan of how, because the word stars is in the title, it feels like they're trying to use it as much as possible. I finally finished this book. I don't know why I say finally, that's probably the average time it would normally take me to finish a book. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. Like, I definitely can see people liking this book, especially if you like fantasy, magic, and pirates, but I'm not a fantasy person, which is why I anticipated this to be my least favorite out of the 5, and thus far, with only my top 2 left to read, that's true. I'm giving this a 2.5, so it's going 3rd out of the 3 that I've read. For a lot of reasons, for me, writing is super, super, super important. A book that's written well with no plot, which I guess is pretty much literary fiction, will keep me reading more than a book with plot that's not written well. This isn't written terribly by any means, but I didn't like it. I thought that the narrative was really repetitive. I felt like she had to come to realizations like 4 or 5 times. Like, we already know that. Why are you taking us through it again? There was a little too much description for me, which is interesting because you would think it would be needed for a fantasy world, but I found myself skipping over it. The main character was kind of a brat. She was entitled, and she doesn't know anything. She's so sheltered, and yet she thinks she's the best person to lead the kingdom. And she goes through this phase where she gets all moody and she's bossy and, like, really mean to everybody for no reason, and even when she comes out of it, she never apologizes, and all of them are just, like, okay with it. And then there's the love triangle that I mentioned in the beginning, which develops exactly as I expected it to, and I was thinking about it as the book was ending. Not only was the chemistry between the characters, like all of them, forced, so she has this is like right in the beginning, so it's not a spoiler. She has a fiance who she's been arranged to marry once she passes her test, which she doesn't. But he's described as her childhood best friend, and they literally don't get along at all. Like, she hates him. And he loves her. And I literally don't know why. Another thing I had a problem with is that everybody was really self-aware, and they were really intuitive about it and self-aware and, like, willing to change, and that to me was it was a trait that too many characters had. I'm not going to tell you in what way, but particularly if you've read it, The King, I felt like his whole arc was totally undeserved as far as, like, the change that we saw in him. I don't buy that it was actually within his character. Something I did like, though, is that the antagonist, Kevin, was really ambiguous. there were obviously the, like, quote-unquote evil parts about him, but there were things that he was right about and philosophies that he shared with the people that are on, like, the good side. And so I thought that was very realistic. So I think I'll just drop it at a free library. And Mama and I are taking a walk so I can drop this book. Hello. I am 309 pages. Ink in the Blood. It is so good. It's so good. I'm gonna like tear up. Ah! I'm probably going to finish today. If not today, then I'll finish tomorrow. This was my #1 anticipated book, and right now it's 4 stars. The characters are really great. I wrote some notes that I won't talk about right now, but the chemistry between the protagonist and the person, the love interest, is so good. It's just like, I feel like that's what I was missing in All the Stars and Teeth. And it was okay in Yes, So Maybe So. They were cute, but like I said, I wasn't obsessed. Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Again, it was pretty good, but it was not. I wasn't obsessed. I am so obsessed with these two. Like, I think I might have said already that I wouldn't be picking up other books in series. I just kind of have a thing against series, just because nowadays I think that they're too common. Not that we shouldn't ever have them, but that I think a lot of times people write series when they're not needed. I will so be buying the second book. I can't believe I have to wait almost a year. And I promised it to a friend already, but I legit think I'm going to be like, hey, can you give it back after you're done? I just want you to know.
Okay.
Yep. The climax is coming. It's here, and I'm so nervous. Listen, Kim, how could you do this to me? Listen, I have this thing where I cry when I finish a good book, not because the ending was sad, but because I am so astounded that good art exists. Ink in the Blood was so good. I am spot on by anticipating this was my #1 book of the 5, and I would be shocked if it got kicked out of first place. So, I already mentioned this, but the chemistry was so good. I mean, when I say that, I mean specifically between the protagonist and the love interest. But just the chemistry between all the characters was really good. There were so many characters that it's even more impressive that the chemistry between them was really good, but also I felt that they were all well-rounded, and like their roles were important, and it was just good. And the biggest pull for this book from the very beginning for me was the mood. I don't want to say aesthetic, because I don't think that's quite the right word. It was like the feeling that surrounded me while I was reading this book was just enrapturing. It was so magical, which is normally a word that I would stray away from, but it was like steampunk magic. Like, in the beginning, the Inklings wear, like, suspenders and top hats, and it's very macabre. That the tone of all the dialogue and the plot also fit into really well. So it just, like, sucks you right in. Something I thought that the writer did well is they have a lot of schemes and plans and sort of, like, the history of things in the book. And so there are a lot of times where the people that know everything have to tell somebody who knows nothing about the story, and that can be really repetitive really quickly, but I thought the author handled it well, and originally, every single time that the characters had to relay information, she didn't just relay it all to us again, because as a reader it gets boring really fast being repeated something that you already know. So I thought the way that she kind of summarized the information but still held the mood of like what the person telling and the person finding out were both feeling was really well written. Oh my gosh, she was giving so many clues for book 2, and I am here for it. uh, it was like, I don't know what this means, but I know it's a clue. The friendship between Anya and Celia was so great. It was one of those, like, I would die for you friendships, but I totally felt the reality of it. Like, they had each other's backs, and I didn't at all feel like that was false or, the depth of their friendship was shown really well and tested, and they were really good, like, complementary opposites to each other. I thought the integration of LGBTQ characters was really great. Sexuality-wise, it was just really natural and not an important part of the plot, which I really liked, because we get a lot of LGBTQ books that the sexuality is part of the plot, which is obviously fine, but it's nice to see LGBTQ characters doing other stuff and still being gay, you know? And then also the integration of what Kim, I want to say her last name is Shmeshkal, called tenors. It's like an aura that has around a person that, like, describes their gender, and it falls to the general, like, he, she, they category, but it's basically supposed to be infinite, like a fingerprint. Everyone's is original. She had a lot of dialogue that came back around for a second or a third time in stories, and that's one of my favorite writing techniques, is when you bring dialogue back around, because it just always means so much more, like, the second or the third time put into a new context. It's just, like, rich. I kind of miss it. Hello. Hi, I'm back. Has it been a lot of days? Yes. Today is April 30th, but I'm done. Does this mean I really enjoyed the book, or I didn't enjoy the book at all? This book was shit. Okay, maybe that's not the best way to start this. I took a break of a couple of days in between reading Ink in the Blood and starting this, because even though this was my second most anticipated book, I knew there was no way it was going to surpass Ink in the Blood, so I was kind of like a little hesitant. And then I started the book, and it immediately wasn't good. I'm not going to say a lot about it because I'm prepared to do a rant review, and by prepared I mean I'm working on an 11-page Word document with notes. So this book was 1.5 stars. And it was only 1.5 because it could have been worse. A little bit. The writing wasn't good. I had a lot of thoughts. If you can't tell, I ran out of 3 colors. She would say something and then she would contradict it like a couple of pages later. So it just really invalidated anything that she said because she lost all of her own credibility. The aliens were pretty much more attractive, stronger humans, which to me is such a cop-out way to create aliens. You're telling me out of all the possible things that my mind probably can't even comprehend because it's not creative enough to come up with, the best that she could do was humanoid. There are true Allori, which are the aliens, and then there are lab-made Allori, and those are half human, half Allori. So I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty creative way to make them look and be like humans because they are half humans in order to fit in on Earth. That makes sense to me. But then the true Alluri are also human, like humanoid. She says they're not, but then describes them as such. And when our human protagonist sees one for the first time, all she thinks is, ooh, it's glowing purple a little bit. Wow, his clothes are a weird color. So obviously he doesn't look that otherworldly if those are the only two things that you remarked on. There were just so many things in here that were convenient. When she needed new clothes, there happened to be a fully intact, preserved shopping center clothes store right there for her to get clothes from. And then they happen upon a library that's also fully preserved. The excuse that the alien uses is that they want to preserve some human things as museums, which makes sense to me, except if books and art and everything are outlawed, there's no way that they would leave a fully intact library unguarded so that any human can just walk up to it and get books and art and stuff. Like, that just doesn't, it's not copacetic. Her explanations of the aliens were just entirely not there. She would introduce a new ability whenever she felt like it, and then use it, and then it would never come back. So they're described as stronger, healthier humans, but then all of a sudden he can jump from this roof and then defy the laws of physics, which is almost exactly what he says. He's like, I'm defying Earth's gravitational laws or whatever. And then with his mind, sever a rope while in midair and then land perfectly fine and catch another human. Nobody in peak physical shape could do that. And then these humans are sorting seeds, and then he just like waves his hand over them and they're all just magically sorted. Or he looks at this bag of books, and then the human Ellie describes it as basically disintegrating before her eyes. But then it turns out he just like shrunk it, and now he's got to unshrink it. So there is no rhyme or reason to any of the abilities that he has, nor are there any rules, which is what I think really irks me, because the number one thing you have to do when you're creating a world that is not the world that we understand today is you have to create rules and you have to follow them. It doesn't matter what your rules are. That's the best part about fantasy and sci-fi and all that kind of stuff. You can create whatever rules you want. The thing is, once they're created, you can't break them. Otherwise, you are basically tricking readers. So that's what I felt like she was doing the entire time. Not only with his abilities, but with the relationships that were established and like the way information was introduced. We would meet a character right before they became immediately relevant to the plot. The book was entirely too long. I don't know when the last time was that I gave a book 1.5 stars, so it just was really bad. Oh, also, they happen upon a lot of abandoned buildings, and they all just have working electricity. So that's weird. And then they're supposed to be running for their lives like pretty much the whole time, but they find a lot of instances where they're just able to like sit down and bond and fall in love, which I think is stupid. So that's all I'm going to say about this. In this video, like I said, I will be posting a separate rant review. It will be 0% spoiler free, and it might get heated. Let's be done with that. Wrap up. Despite the way that last book was, I did think about DNFing The Sound of Stars, but I didn't. Originally I didn't because it was part of this giveaway, and then secondarily I didn't because I was like, wow, this is going to make a kick-ass video. And then I actually enjoyed doing the second half just because I was incredulous at how many things that I found to mark. But overall, I had a really good time reading these books. I want to thank Cindy so much for choosing me. I mean, I know it pretty much had nothing to do with me, except I entered the giveaway. I had a lot of fun reading. I probably honestly wouldn't have picked up a single one of these books. Honestly, if I read a premise like Ink in the Blood now, which is, it's a fantasy, and I still just really shy away from fantasies, I don't know if I would pick it up. Yes, No, Baby So was about what I expected it to be. And I have Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, and I'm kind of expecting it to be the same as far as like a light, not super memorable but worth reading YA contemporary. I was really surprised by A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I don't think it's going to make me any less cautious about thrillers, but I do think it opens me up to, if I see like all of the people that I trust say that this thriller is good, I will probably pick it up. Otherwise, one before it, I wouldn't. And All the Stars and Teeth is exactly why I don't read fantasy. It wasn't good. I can't believe it was on the New York Times bestseller list. I can't believe how many 5-star reviews I read. Same thing goes for The Sound of Stars. It's not that I don't understand people liking these books, because I can see reasons that people would like these books. 5 stars? Really? 5? Here, whichever side, my original, here are the predictions. I don't think I was actually that far off. Ink in the Blood was my number 1 prediction, and it was my number 1 read. And then All the Stars and Teeth was my last, as far as like thinking I would like it, and it was second last only to The Sound of Stars, which was the only one that I wouldn't even say messed up about, because the concept is still something that I really like, and what ruined it was the execution. So there's no way that I could have guessed that the execution of it would be so terrible. So I'm not going to say that that hinders my ability to guess what books I'm going to like. But then Yes, No, Maybe So and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I believe, are also switched. I'm going to say that I still do a pretty good job guessing what books that I want to read. I had a fun time doing this. I had a fun time branching out from what I would normally pick up. And that was a lot of pages. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought. If you haven't, I'm recommending Ink in the Blood, and I'm recommending A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. All of the other ones I could pretty much leave. Do I need to say anything else? Peace out, I guess.